Hey everyone, welcome back to the DevOps Roundup. Today we got a special treat for you. Sean and I are putting together an in-person bootcamp, and we wanted to give you some details about it.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. So this is our event that's in Washington, D.C., coming up on February 10th. So just before the Team Tour Government, if you're aware of that. It's a Atlassian event. And so we're doing an Atlassian-based boot camp.
And we're very excited because it's our first in-person bootcamp, and we're going to be testing the waters, but we have a lot of information planned, and it's going to be awesome.
Yes, yeah, we're looking forward to it, and this is an event that we'll build off of and do a number of events based off this throughout the U.S. in 2026.
Yeah. And so enjoy the rest of this video. We're going to, again, give you all the details and give you a lot of information and kind of walk you through the bootcamp. And make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a like.
Okay, I have still not played with mine. It may be over now.
It is over. It's been over for 2 days.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the DevOps Roundup. I'm Sean Doyle. This is Alex Ortiz.
And today we're going to talk about, is how you're hiring software engineers changing in the era of AI?
Has it already changed, and is it changing for the better or the worse?
Yeah. So let's talk about it. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, drop a like, and let's get into it.
All right.
So AI is changing everything. And one thing that I never thought would change is how we hire software engineers. But holy moly, it is changing a lot.
Yeah. I think companies that interview with like whiteboard challenges and coding examples, I think that's becoming old school, or should be becoming old school. Because like we were discussing earlier, who remembers syntax anymore? I stopped remembering syntax a number of years ago when it was just easy to Google, the solution, where you didn't have to go look in the book for a syntax for a command. Like I used to have all the sed and awk commands or syntax memorized, and I was a VI warrior. These days, some of the muscle memory is still there, but if someone asked me an awk command question in an interview, I would be hard pressed to give exact syntax.
And by the time I started doing software engineering interviews, we were a little bit more comfortable with pseudocode. So you didn't have to memorize the syntax per se, but you needed to know the logic, right? Yeah. You needed to know when did you need to do the for loop and your if statement.
I would argue that good interviewers always focused on the logic and not so much the syntax. But I've sat through interviews in my early days where they were, very picky or particular about getting the right syntax, or they're going to not hire you because you did a /s instead of the -s in a command or something.
But all of that now in 2026 is almost basically irrelevant and pointless, because anything that you could have possibly stuffed in your brain is now instantaneously accessible through the power of AI. And so that leaves us with, how do we hire software engineers in an era where AI dominates so much? Do we even need software engineers?
I think that's a loaded question, and I definitely think we do need software engineers still. But hiring or interviewing. What was I saying?
Something about interviewing and hiring are two different things.
Yeah, I definitely think interviewing and hiring are two different things. I do think software developers are still needed. I think we're years away from, AI is going to be able to even replace, all software developers. I do think there'll be a steep slope once we get towards that era.
Yeah.
Where we don't need them anymore, but we still need them. And I think interview processes are still important. I think you still need to focus on logic and not necessarily, specific tools or specific syntaxes and coding skills.
Yeah, because I think at this point you're hiring almost on curiosity. Like, how curious is an individual? Like, how far are they willing to
How
take?
motivated are they? Are they
Yeah.
going to work a 40-hour week for you, or are they only going to work
No, I mean, I'm not. I don't think I'm worried about that because I don't care if they're going to work 2 hours or 40 hours, right? I think I want to see if I give this person a challenge, regardless of the challenge, are they willing to leverage the tools available to them to get to an answer? Like, are they driven enough to get a solution? And then they have infinite use of all the tools. I think Mike Cannon Brooks, the CEO of Atlassian, I heard him on a podcast recently talking about, we have our developers, they can buy any AI tool that they want, and we expect them to use it, right? And so I think that's the right mentality, where a lot of software engineers have access to Claude and Gemini and Cursor and GPT and everything
Well, I
else.
think that's exploded in the last year. I would say if we had the same conversation last January, it would be very few people have access to those tools.
Yeah.
A lot of corporations weren't allowing them, in the door, and people were using ChatGPT on the side. It was their side piece AI.
But from a hiring perspective, though, right? I am explicitly looking for, can you use these AI tools, or are you handicapped from that perspective? I think that I would want to challenge them, right? I'd want to give them a question so incredibly hard that you cannot possibly solve it unless you use AI to get to an answer.
Well, can't possibly solve it in a reasonable amount of time without AI tools.
You're right.
So if I gave someone a reasonable yet very difficult answer in an interview, and I'm expecting them to answer during that interview, but I made it difficult enough that they would have to tell me that, hey, I would
but
check with
but
AI.
gone are the days of, hey, sort this list for me, or
yes,
like
I
those
think
kind of
it should
videos are
be.
gone.
Yeah, I don't think you should have to expect to do a bubble sort in an interview.
But gone are also the days of, like, I'll give you a little anecdote. Something I did over our break here over the holidays was, I've been wanting to build a game of Tetris since 2008.
You can just buy Tetris.
I know. But in 2008, I took a Java class, and I needed to code a game of Tetris. Right, that was my project, and I could not
complete it.
Yeah, I never could for the life of me get this dumb thing to work. Right, it was not in my skill set of arsenals, and so for all these years, I've been wanting to complete that project. So I gave myself a little challenge, and I'm like, because I have on this channel, one of the things that I wanted to do, Sean, was not leave you alone, was to make more coding videos. And so I gave myself a challenge of, like, okay, I want to code. So one of the challenges that I gave myself over the winter break was, and one of the things I want to do on this channel is maybe talk a little bit more about coding, right? More coding type of videos and stuff like that. So I was like, you know what? Let me just record myself working with AI and getting a game of Tetris built, right? And I was going to start simple with, like, hey, I want to build this Tetris game, and, like, help me out, right? Just give me something to start with. You know what Claude did?
He gave you the whole thing.
Gave me a freaking game of Tetris in like 30 seconds. I'm like, huh. So there goes that project.
Did it work?
Yeah, and then it's like, would you like to add levels so you can make it more harder? Would you like to keep a counter? Would you like to preview the next piece? I'm like, oh shoot. I'm like, yes to all, and I rewrote the whole thing. And 30 seconds later, after that, like in 1 minute, I have a fully functioning game of Tetris. I'm like, well, shoot, that took the fun out of this video idea.
Well, no, what you should do is continue to iterate on that. Can you change the pieces to be the pictures of your family, and so you're stacking everybody up.
Yeah, but it was just so interesting. Like I walked in naively thinking that we were gonna build, like, module by module, like, help me build the UI part, help me build the
I think if you asked it to do it that way, it probably would have.
But I was expecting AI, because when I tell AI, give me a list of like 50 ideas, it's like, here's 5 and I'll think about the next 15.
Yeah.
Right? So I was expecting it when I'm like, hey, let's build a game of of Tetris, it's like, okay, here's a title page
Yeah.
with the start button, right? Like, let's build the rest. Like, let's keep going. But no, like it built the whole thing in one shot.
Or did it just go out the internet and grab a copy of Tetris and send it to you?
No. This was fully customized. Like it had all the HTML code and everything. But again, so back to the interview questions, like you can't even ask, like you can't ask the whole bubble sort an array, traverse an array, and all those rudimentary, all that leak code type of stuff that was for many years popular. You can't do that. You can't ask them to build an application either, because Claude will build the whole application in 30 seconds. So you almost kind of need to move them on to the next prompt that I started. I'm like, okay, so since I built a game of, Tetris in 10 seconds, the next thing I started embarking on, because I basically completed and closed that chapter in a minute. It was the most like sad and depressing thing. I was like, huh, okay, I guess AI is there, right? So the next thing I moved on to was like, okay, let's build a game of Roblox.
Okay.
Right? I wanted to build my own Roblox game, but I started using AI to help me design a game of Roblox. Right? We started figuring out the storyline. We started figuring out the characters. We started figuring out the what makes the game sticky. Like the players to keep coming back. We figured out a way like monetization and in-game purchasing, right? And we started like working together as a dialogue to eventually build this overarching game that I'm assuming I can now send to Claude and go build me this. I haven't tried it yet, but that's again the style of interview questions that I think people would probably evolve into moving into, where it's like, okay, don't just build me something that apparently can be done by AI in 30 seconds or less, but let's see how you converse and think with AI.
I do think that would be a very valuable way to conduct an interview. I'm not sure I'd only do that. My style of interviews, I think I've said this in other episodes, is I like to ask open-ended questions, and I think I would tie AI into those open-ended questions, because I want to see, if I give them enough rope, will they hang themselves during my interviews?
So you're gonna ask them like, figure out the meaning of life and use AI.
How many years would an AI take to give you the answer 42 to the meaning of life?
Yeah. No, I mean, I just think so. I think companies are completely changing it, right? But at the same time, they're not hiring as much, which is alarming. But I don't know. I think
job numbers are extremely low, for 2025, and there's more and more of our friends that are on the job market.
Right. And so, how do companies then ensure that they hire good people or qualified people? Because whatever you're learning, and so I think this is a very interesting and tricky challenge as well, because whatever you're learning in college is not updated with the rate of innovation in AI.
Yeah, it never has been, but it's getting worse and worse. Yeah. Back in the 70s, what you're learning in college is still semi-relevant to what you see in the job market. Come the 80s and 90s, no, you're 5 to 10 years behind. Now, it
might be a century behind.
Yeah, it might as well be 20 years behind what you're learning. I would assume that some colleges, especially the more expensive ones, are trying to stay up with technology, but guaranteed there's nowhere near, the majority of their courses are not up to date with.
Right. But again, so this is a conundrum, right? This is why I wanted to talk to you about this, because like there's a gap. Because we can group people into different categories, right? But let's focus on college graduates, because those are usually the ones that are the most impacted right now. You spend $100,000, 4 to 5 years of your life. You learn how to code. Everything you just spent in the last 5 years can be done like that with Claude.
Yeah.
So where does that leave you? Because you're probably also very discouraged from using AI.
Well, it leaves you in debt. And with no, with the majority of the population having no remorse for you, and or sympathy for you,
right?
And basically you're behind the curve with people that went to a trade school. So trades have not changed as quickly as the high tech has. We're not to the point where an AI
I
is
don't
going to
know,
be able to
Sean.
turn a wrench or drive a hammer.
You just came back from CES and you said there was an AI for everything.
They were a lot of robots.
You didn't find any sexy plumber robots with the plumber's
Oh,
crack?
there was sexy robots there. I don't know if they were doing plumbing work. But no, so CES did have a lot of robots, probably too many robots. Um, so earlier today I was having a conversation, and one of the things came up is, did CES forget what the C stood for in CES? Because there was a lot of direct to OEM solutions that were unveiled at CES. The vast majority of the robots that were there are not consumer facing robots. There were things that are going to be running in factories or in plants. And
I saw that exact same sentiment from the NVIDIA keynote, because the entire NVIDIA presentation was, here's our data center chips to power AI.
Yeah.
and all the comments in that stream were like, does this guy forget what the C, like where are the RTX graphics cards? Because not a single thing for gamers.
I went through so NVIDIA had multiple booths throughout CES, and they were not really showcasing their video cards. Where I did see them were in other vendors' booths. So so pretty much every motherboard vendor, like Gigabit and some others, they were showcasing the NVIDIA cards or the NVIDIA chips on their cards. But NVIDIA directly, I didn't see an instance of them showing off anything to sell directly to consumer.
So in a future episode, we're gonna have to do an episode on the impact of DevOps and AI at CES, and then we're gonna have to do another episode where we talk about, like, is UBI, Universal Basic Income, the only path forward for tech workers?
Yeah, we really jumped to that conclusion right there. But I do think that is a possibility that we need to start talking about. Is if the only human jobs left are things that robots can't physically do, what is everybody else going to do?
Right.
We don't have a society that would allow everyone not to do anything. It is,
unless you live in California, come on over. We got the infrastructure built out. Don't worry.
Well, we're not to the point like in Wall-E where all the humans are just floating around in chairs and drinking big gulps. So we have big gulps. We just don't have the hover chairs yet.
Yeah, wait for CES 2027.
So this probably would have been a better episode to talk about CES because it's fresh in my mind because I just got back from it. But we weren't smart enough, but it did come up in conversation. So we thought it would be better to talk about AI and interviews.
It's relevant, and we'll circle back. We'll make an episode on that, but it's still very relevant because CES is showing us that the software market has already been impacted by AI before consumers even knew about it.
Mm-hmm.
As of CES 2020, let me ask you this first question: did you go to CES 2025?
Yes.
What was the ratio of robots and AI in 25 versus 26?
Oh, they definitely were a lot more robots this year. AI was there, but it was a much more emphasis on AI. Every single booth said world's first AI.
Right. But this is for 2026. But in 2025, just a year ago, no, it wasn't as predominant.
It wasn't. It was more than it was in 2024 and 2023.
Right. So. But that's the point I'm trying to get to, right? Like when we're looking at the hiring market, especially with software engineers, it took software to make AI. The rest of the market's going to catch up. And so all the problems that we're like having today for our software engineers, like it's only a moment of time before all of our bankers and all our fast food workers and all of retail, and like it's just going to trickle down.
I could see getting rid of the what would you call the bankers and accountants and
tellers.
Yeah.
like tellers and stuff
Well,
like that?
no. If you group tellers and bankers and accountants and everyone except for like healthcare workers can easily be replaced by AI today.
Even then, but have you not seen Big Hero 6?
I have seen Big Hero 6. I don't
Yeah,
remember much of it, but yeah,
well, the white thingy, I forgot
yeah,
his
I know
name.
what it was.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
that's an
balloon
AI
thing.
healthcare robot on wheels.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's a healthcare guy. Yeah,
Yeah, so it's
he's
just a matter of time before.
first aid
Well,
kit on wheels. Yeah.
yeah, it's a matter of time before you have like a heart surgeon just go, Alexa, give me my heart surgeon.
Well, I actually think that would probably become an AI driven, what do you call it, the employment or whatever role before like a nurse. I think it's harder to replace a nurse than it is to replace a heart surgeon. They already have robots that can do heart surgery, and it's just surgeon assisted now.
Yeah.
So you just have to have it get that much better that you no longer need a surgeon assistant. But a nurse that does so many different tasks during a shift, that's harder for the robot to do. So I don't want this to go completely into a CES review, but there was a robot that was dealing cards, and it looked like it was doing a terrible job. It was very shaky and it was extremely slow. Like while I was standing there watching it, someone next to me made the comment that, if this was a dealer at an actual table in a casino, I'd get up and walk away, because this is, this is, unbearable to watch, let alone having to sit through, a hand. But it was doing it all correctly. It was just very slow and shaky. That's going to improve over, the next couple of months, if not over the next year.
But Sean, but even then though, right? Like it is very self-evident that AI is going to replace literally almost every job out there.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time.
And how long per profession, which was the word I was trying to think of. So release team, DevOps tool specialists. We provide professional services and software reselling around the leading software DevOps tools like Atlassian, GitLab, GitHub, JFrog, and others. To talk with us about DevOps, here's our contact information. Please call 866-887-0489 or via email at info@releaseteam.com. Which was the word I was trying to think of.
It reminds me of the days of COVID. I remember in the 2-3 days into COVID, I had a new manager. I had a new team, and I remember this so distinctively. He was like, "It's not a matter of if you'll get COVID; it's a matter of when you'll get COVID."
Yeah.
So it's not a matter of if AI will replace your job and replace how you hire in your industry. It's a matter of when. But I still think because software engineers are the first ones to have been impacted by this whole AI revolution, I think they're also going to be the ones that figure out how do we move forward to like still being able to provide for our families, because it's going to trickle down. All the other industries are going to have to figure out how do we hire for our industry. Yeah. The only thing I can think of is, again, you need to have this level of curiosity, because every major like entrepreneur that is in the AI space right now, they're very, very positive on the outlook that AI is not going to ruin the world. Right? They're very positive on the outlook that
AI itself may not ruin the world, but because of AI, we may ruin the world, and not we as software professionals, but no, we as humans. There's some science fictions that something happens in the world and there's a revolution and we get pushed back into the dark ages. Some have said that probably has happened multiple times over human history, where we get so upset about the next advancement that people revolt, and then we go back to the previous thing for a century or two. Yeah.
But
so yeah, I could definitely see that happening. There's a large dumbing down of the population in our country here, and they want to go back to the good old days. The good old days are completely undefined and good old days for who.
Have you ever watched the All In podcast
No,
with Jay Cal and a couple of other Silicon Valley bigwigs? I
no,
like
you
it.
mentioned it a few times.
Yeah.
I think I've always said no. But
They had an episode over the break, over the holidays here. They were talking about laws, political laws that are being implemented in the United States to slow down the progress of AI, mainly because of this whole UBI conversation, right? This universal basic income. This whole like politicians are freaking out that like, guys, we are not ready for AI to take over everything.
No. And I clearly don't think we're ready for UBI either.
But there's a huge problem though. The huge problem here though is that these four entrepreneurs were like, if the U.S. were to pump the brakes on the development of AI and the advancements of the technology, the other countries are friends or frenemies in China. They're not going to stop, right? Their governments are investing even more.
Yeah. So while I agree with that, I would say it's the same argument they've had about clean energy and global warming. That hey, we're not going to stop because those guys aren't going to stop. Well, that is playground mentality. But go ahead. What else did these geniuses say?
No, well, the point that they were saying was like, okay, we can't afford to stop because we need to be at the forefront and leading.
And I agree with that.
Right.
Part.
But there's certain politicians that want to pump the brakes completely on AI, and I think would be a huge mistake, right?
But I think there's a middle ground. I think there's guardrails that should be implemented. I'm not sure anyone in the government are the correct people to.
I was going to say, there's no way you can put a guardrail because have you seen this episode of Silicon Valley where son of Antoine gets turned over to the code and he rewrites the code and like basically like creates Terminator? Like that's going to inevitably happen. So I think there's going to be a point where somebody's going to like hit enter on some command and AI is just going to be too smart. My Tesla, the full self-driving on the Tesla today is all.
So we got around to Elon Musk already.
Yes. I was going to say my Tesla is the current version of full self-driving on the Tesla is all neural trained. There is no human code in it.
Okay. I have still not played with mine. It may be over now.
It is over. It's been over for 2 days.
All right. I never played with it. Yeah.
But the point is, like, these Teslas have been training themselves. So when they go, rogue, it's going to be nothing. Like, there's nothing in the world that Elon's going to be able to do to stop an army of Teslas from just like revolting against society. But anyways, to wrap this conversation in this episode up, we're going to enter an era where if your job is going to be impacted by the advancements of AI, you are not going to be in a better position fighting it. You need to figure out a way to embrace it and leverage it. And I think the biggest takeaway that I can say here is that these advancements in AI are going to expose laziness. They're going to expose lazy engineers, lazy anything.
I think they're going to help the lazy engineer because the lazy engineer is the best engineer.
Maybe. Unmotivated then might be the right term that I'm looking for.
Find the unmotivated ones.
It'll find the unmotivated because when you're unmotivated, then you're just going to depend on UBI and like that's going to be your thing. But for everybody else, you have to now think about new jobs and new opportunities and new outlooks that don't even exist today. And focus on that because again, I would bypass the whole college experience at this point and just spend a year.
I'm mad that I paid for college for my
kids. But I would spend I would spend hours a day working with AI, figuring out how to change the outlook of my life. Over the break, I also watched a documentary from the head of Google Open Mind. I don't know if you know him, Daria or Dane. He lives in the UK.
Okay.
So there's the head of OpenAI, the head of DeepMind, which is Google's AI people. They've been using Google Gemini or the backbone of Gemini to solve protein folding.
Okay.
Right. And so that was an application where they went from image recognition to that CSGO beating that game, that chess game with the Chinese to all of a sudden we're trying to solve protein folding so we can solve and diseases and stuff.
Yeah.
And so like that's the kind, but you need to be hyper motivated and hyper curious to do something like that. But if you're graduating or you're trying to get a job and you're like, okay, I'm just And even if you're coming up to the job application, like, okay, I know how to use AI, but give me a job, like, it's going to be a lot harder.
No, you have to have domain experience, but you don't necessarily.
But you get domain experience through AI now.
No,
I
not
had an
so
argument.
much.
I know, I think so. I had an argument with my brother-in-law's brother-in-law on Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Yeah, my brother-in-law on Thanksgiving. He's like, "Hey, Alex, he's a iPhone repair person, and
Okay.
he's like, you'll never be able to do my job at the skill that I can do because I have years and years and years of practice." And I'm like, I'm willing to bet that through the power of AI, I can do your job, maybe not as well as you, but my learning curve can be drastically shrunk
So
to where
what level of experience does he have that someone that so yeah, I don't buy his argument either, because what's the skill? Being able to unscrew an iPhone and slowly peel back the glass so it doesn't break.
is the reflow soldering.
Understand how much pressure you can put on to extract the glass from the glue.
No, it's not at the chip level, at the component level, right? Like just being able to desolder the stuff and replace the parts and know which part's the broken one and what's causing. Like,
soldering is a skill that can be learned, but
only that though, right? Like it's knowing
I'll give him that.
the root cause of the problem, right? He can look at a device and understand root cause quickly.
Yeah, but what happens with the new iPhone? Is all that knowledge lost now?
I don't know. I was simply because he's very anti AI, right? He's like, I will never use AI, and I'm like,
I meet more people that are anti AI than are pro AI.
Yeah, well, I'm just telling everybody that's anti AI, you will be displaced 1,000 times faster.
Yeah. I am not hugely pro AI, but I see it as a useful tool, and I like tools. So if I can add more tools to my collection, I will. And so I have played with the majority of AI tools.
Yeah,
I got annoyed at paying for a lot of them. So I haven't played with the paid version of every AI tool out there. But if it's got a free trial or has a free entry level, I'm trying it out.
Yeah,
but no, I think you're right that we can't avoid it. It's happening, and we need to embrace it and figure out how to move on until we get to something like a UBI. I don't think this country will ever adopt a UBI, but I could be wrong. But we're other countries are probably going to be leading in that aspect.
But until then, I literally have no good advice other than embrace AI.
Let's end it with, we don't know anything and we have no advice for you.
I think the only solid advice is embrace the AI. Like, don't fight it, don't fear it.
Yeah,
take advantage of it. Be ultra curious on how you can leverage it to come up with new ways to do something, and show an employer that you can provide value to them by leveraging the tools that are available to your disposal to help them make money. Because at the end of the day, a business needs to make money to stay in business. And so any compelling argument that you have during your interview process is there. Like, focus on, I can bring you value. It doesn't matter if I'm a video editor, a developer, a fast food worker. Like, I will bring you value, and I will leverage tools to help bring that value to you, and I will work hard and have a good work ethic. And I think that's what's going to differentiate you. Because if you're depending, again, on being able to solve these leak code problems, you're going to be unemployed for a long time.
Yeah.
Because it's no longer about memorization. So that is to say, the end of the episode. Thank you so much.
Yeah, let's wrap there before we get in trouble.
Yeah, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned, because spoilers, we're going to be talking about DevOps and CES next.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.